Hello, this is the follow-up for the maps video, and it's going to have two parts. First, I'm going to talk about the things that I cut out or go into more detail on some other things. And then second, I get asked a lot about my displays, and there are a few tutorials on the main channel, but this video used a lot of different techniques. So I'm just going to go through them and not do a tutorial, but at least explain what's going on. And there is a timestamp if you just want to skip to that part. Okay, so there are two short things that I cut out that I probably could have kept in, and that is water and map scale. So water does this thing entirely based on depth. It doesn't matter what color those blocks are underneath the water, the maps will still look the same. Okay, next up is scale, and I have to admit that I haven't actually looked at the code to figure out exactly how this works, and it's a little confusing. So normally at a 1-to-1 scale map, each pixel is one block in the world like we have here. But if we scale this up, then everything just becomes red. Except for there is a shadow, and for some reason, like this is considered in full light. It is very strange. So what's happening here for this one is that it does average the blocks that are in like a 2x2. Since this map is twice the resolution, it's 1-to-2. It looks at the number of blocks in a spot based off of this location, and then it figures out which one's dominant. If none of them are dominant, then it just uses the block that's present in this location, as far as I can tell. So if I change that, or yeah, if I take that out, so now technically there is concrete, a red, and 2 wood, then it's the wood color. And obviously if I place that back, it doesn't change. If I place this back in, then it goes back to the red color. And if I change all of these, so we have concrete, red, we'll do a cartography table. Now it's wood colored. Oh wait, yeah, because this is I don't have the mod installed, so the cartography table is just wood colored also. So now if we do that, then it goes back to the top left, just the red. And if we look at the next level up, now we just have one red pixel. And it is the same thing where it's an average. So if I change one, yeah, if I change one, now it's wood colored. So it's using it is doing some subsampling of like what is the dominant color. And it's not just what is the block, but what is the dominant map color that is present in those blocks. So it's interesting, but most of the stuff that I cut out is over in the color world, because that was really where this episode was just going to be originally. That was all going to be in the color world. So my original plan was I just wanted to look at the map color distribution because I thought it was a little bit odd with how they did things. And after Gamma got me the actual code, I was really shocked to see that they calculated the shade every single time that they were doing anything. There was no table that actually had that stuff in it. And secondly, that they were doing all of the math just in like regular sRGB. Normally like an easier, or I guess a more simple way to do things correctly for color math for a game or other things is to convert sRGB over to RGB or linear RGB, do your math there, and then convert it back to sRGB. And that tends to eliminate a lot of the issues, but it really doesn't solve any of the problems that they're doing here. And those problems are because they're taking like a percentage, or they're multiplying it by a fraction to produce like the different shades. You can see that the darkest snow color is down here. Wait, where is the darkest snow? It's this one here. It's hard to tell because there's so many overlaps. We'll go with quartz here all the way up to there, which is nearly, like, I think it's over a quarter of the entire color space. But then if you look at black all the way down here, it is a very, very small distance, just here to there. That's the entire range of black, which is partially not I guess say it's the problem is lessened because our eyes are more susceptible to changes in dark colors than they are in lighter colors. And this is why we have sRGB kind of in the first place. And if you look up gamma correction and things like that. I'm not going to go into it now. Or watch my video on averaging color. It talks about it there. So I went through like some processes of like, okay, so if they did this same process, if they took sRGB, converted it over to RGB, did the math, and then converted it back, is it any better? And the answer is no, because like I said earlier, mostly converting to linear RGB and doing math is best for like blending colors, but we're not really blending colors here. We're just like decreasing the brightness of like a color here. And that really doesn't do anything in linear RGB. It really doesn't solve that problem. So first problem that's unavoidable with like how they're doing things is multiplying by fractions. Really what it should be just subtracting a set value or moving a set distance towards black for each shade. And this should be done in OKLab. So here we have some text entities that are representing the RGB gamut in RGB. And I can convert this into OKLab. And the important part is to realize that like these are evenly spaced out. And so now this is the sRGB gamut in OKLab. And you will notice that the spacing is different now. And that is because this the spacing in OKLab, like the again, there's a uniform color video that talks about this, but the distance in OKLab, like if you had to move the smallest amount of distance between two colors that you could detect a difference, you should be able to go to any color, move that same distance, and that would be the smallest detectable change. Down here, things are more spaced out in sRGB because it's not, the sRGB space is not uniform. It is not representative, very representative of how our eyes like really work. One of the things you can tell with this is that the gapping between like darker and lighter is large because we are more susceptible to changes in brightness than we are to changes in hue. So going this way, things are more tightly packed, closer in some areas. In these greens, it's like very close. But in general, our eyes are more susceptible to changes in bright and dark. And so because things are uniform here, this is the space that Minecraft should be picking their Minecraft colors from. And we'll get back to this in a little bit. There's something else I want to talk about too. But instead of having pre-calculated, or instead of doing these like on the fly shades, just giving like based on a percentage, it should be like a set change in brightness. Like, if this is normalized from 0 to 1, change it so it's only, like 0.1 difference between like each shade, or 0.25 or 0.025, whatever, some value. I don't know what a correct value like would be, but then changing it each step and then just having an index for all of that stuff. But we will get back to this in a second. What I was going to spend more of the time of the episode talking about was like a better distribution of color to blocks and everything. And I'm going to kind of walk through why the steps I went through and why I ultimately just cut that entirely out of the episode. It was going to start with this, which is in the episode, which is just like a block to the closest average color. This works for some things. Other things, I don't think it works out well for. I think it needs to be curated a little bit. Things like, we're working off the average color. So this test block being clay color, maybe, I would put it over in the ice. Technically, I would shift the ice so it's more ice colored or something like that. There's lots of like little weird caveats. At least like this method here would at least make things make sense to somebody when they were putting a block down like onto a map. Maybe this doesn't. Bamboo being brown instead of green or something like that. And so I should say also that I did all of the math for this in OKLab. So I converted all of the blocks and all of the colors into OKLab, and then like found the closest map color to, or found the closest map color to each block, and did that. So I'm doing it and just showing it in like sRGB here. So I converted it back and forth. The problem with this is that like if they added a new color, which they can only add 2 more ones, then all of this would have to be recalculated, which is okay, but then, that doesn't really go with trying to change things. So basically, you want to be in a position where adding new blocks or new color doesn't have to change any of the existing map colors. You want to have some forethought applied to this and assume that you're going to have other things being added to the game in the future. So this distribution of color just doesn't work like the existing map colors, because you have things that are too close. Just looking at the base shades, not even talking about the shade system, which is also a better reason to actually get rid of things. But like these colors are way too close. Like if you had these on a map, you could probably substitute one to the other and it really wouldn't make that big of a difference to your art, especially with the whites and like all that stuff. So one of the things that I did was like, okay, well, with the current shading system, how do you like set up colors appropriately in like OKLab so they're evenly distributed? And so then I wrote like some little script that tried to evenly distribute colors in OKLab and to get 63 colors, maybe it was 64, but I think 63. 63 colors evenly distributed in the best arrangement. And this is what I got. And it is not good because you need neutral tones, and there are no neutrals here. There's I don't think any neutral tones, because like you would have to skew things. Maybe this is the neutral tone here, but you need to skew things, and there's no white either. You need to skew things so that it goes through like the middle and you have some colors there. And the way that I did this system was taking into account the current shading system. So it's not just lines it's not just points that you have to deal with that are make sure they're not next to anything else. There's a line that goes downwards here, and the lines are different lengths. And so it was a little bit of a complicated script that I had to write to try to do lines that were all pointing towards black. And I think what I did with this was I set the distance of the line to be constant in OKLab. So I wasn't using the existing shading system. This just doesn't work. Also, because of just making art in general, you need to have more browns and you need to have neutral colors. You don't need to have all of these like magenta colors. I mean, they're useful for some things, but the instances where you are going to have need for browns is a lot more if you're doing any sort of, landscape or anything like that, natural stuff, compared to other things. And also there's like a real lack of like greens, yellow over here too, for some reason. But so I didn't like this method. And then I ended up going through 2 other methods as well, which I didn't actually get around to actually programming into the game as visuals. But I tried to do a reverse, actually before this one, I think I did one where I clustered colors around the density of existing blocks. And so if a block was there, then that was more likely to have a color present. But then that just ended up with the same problem we had previously, where if they added new blocks, then it would rearrange like all the colors and they wouldn't make sense anymore. So I ended up scrapping like all of this out of the video and going, talking about it in more depth. I don't really have like a whole lot of notes on it, but I could have suggested like what like the right way to do it is. I think it's important to keep the map system limited in a number of available colors, because a map needs to be a little bit simplistic. It's not supposed to be like just this one-to-one representation of things like in the world color-wise. So keeping it limited to 255 is a way that you can do that. Just predetermine those 64 colors and predetermine those shades, and then have that in a table that it references. Get rid of this dumb like shading system. The fact that it like recalculates the shade for every single pixel on a map is insane. And the file itself, like, it has no compression whatsoever. It is just straight like here's a pixel and a number. It's like a bitmap like image, like no compression. It's mind-boggling. They post nice here. That's not entirely true. There is some compression there. It's more like it's an index file without the index, because in like a bitmap, you're recording your red, green, and blue channel. And this one, you're only recording a single value between 0 and 255. And so there is some sort of compression there. So it's not an incredibly huge file, but it can be better. So I think the best way to do this is to purposely pick colors to cover the widest amount of area in the gamut. And then even if you don't have blocks that are going to be that color, that's fine. They're in the system. And then when if blocks are added, in the future that can match up to that color, then use that. So what I did here, this is my first attempt at doing that in OKLab. I picked evenly distributed colors. It's kind of hard to see. Let me see if I can, yes, here. If I get down here in OKLab, I picked evenly distributed hues of every 30 degrees, technically in OKLCH. But you have your primary colors, red, magenta, blue, cyan, green, and yellow. And then I picked secondary colors and tertiary colors. And then as I dropped the saturation, I removed one of those sets. So the outside set has 12, and then the inside set has 6, and then just the middle set only has 3. So there's your green, red, and blue, just very low saturation. And then you have some middle colors here too for fully saturated. And then what I would do for the shades is determine an equal spacing. I don't know exactly what that would be. Ideally, like you would have 1, 2 colors in between these reds, and then 1, 2 colors between here, and then you'd have 1, 2 before you got to pure black. And that's how that would be set up. And if you did it like this, you would end up with, I have to do some math. Okay, so if you did it exactly like this, with each color having 2 other usable shades on the map system, this would still leave 57 colors available. So what I think I would do was maybe fill in some of the areas that are further away, because down here, these are all very kind of clustered. It looks like I'd have to look at this in OKLab, but I think maybe you could add some fourth set of colors, maybe all the way out or something like that. But this would be a much, much better system to use and have a lot better color distribution and color coverage than you would have normally. And this was what I was, I think, to Goose, the loosest of gooses in the video. This is what we were kind of chatting about. Like, I asked him, like, if you could go to the store, the paint store, and buy 64 colors, like, how would you go about that? Like, if you couldn't do any blending, like, what would the 64 best colors to pick be? Because at the time I was also thinking about, you want more neutral colors and you want more browns. But anyway, this is how things work out. I would definitely add a black or a color that the darkest shade would be black. I have pure white up there. But this is the better color distribution. I actually could add fully saturated. I only added like 90% saturated. I didn't add like fully saturated colors. Just trying to make the color space slightly smaller so you can get like a denser covering. But maybe you could space that out and do some other things in there. But anyway, so this is what I was going to do in the episode. It takes a lot of work to do this and then figure out the distances and then do all the animations for that. And then ultimately I could figure out what blocks to reassign to these colors. But the mod really can't change how the shades work, and this system won't work that well with like how the current shade system works. So if I was going to redo the color system, this is how it would be. That's basically everything that I cut out of the video. And so now I'm going to go back basically through everything I did in the video and just kind of do a brief explanation of like the visuals and like how I do them. Before we start, everything I do in my videos is all done in vanilla Minecraft. Like I use mods and external tools to make some of the animations, but just anybody could download the world with the, you know, the data pack or the command blocks or whatever I'm using in it, and it will work. So that's kind of a rule that I have for myself, is that I don't use mods to perform any of the animations, but I do use mods to create some of the animations. So with that in mind, the map thing here is literally just that. They are maps. So I did use an external tool to create the maps. So I guess to start, what I actually did was that I recorded this intro somewhere around here in this world, and then I exported that video as a series of PNGs at 20 frames per second. Minecraft runs at 20 frames per second, or it can update the game 20 times per second. So what I did was exported those as PNGs, as square ones, like exactly like this. And then I used the page map artcraft to upload an image and then create an actual map file. So you can create a schematic that you can place like into the world. I am actually just creating the straight up map file, and then I'm importing that like into my world. And so, you know, this isn't pasted in the world somewhere as blocks, but I could have done that, but I just didn't. I ended up being 170 frames, I think. So how to get this to actually work is that if I run this now, it's not going to. There will be some noise though. So you'll see one flash on the screen every once in a while, and that's because it takes more than a 20th of a second to load a map file. Again, because of the way the map system is, like it's having to recalculate like the shade for every one of these pixels like over and over and over every single time. So instead, I have these chests full of the actual frames, right? So, and then with the Axiom mod that I use a lot, you can have multiple pages of hotbars. And so I just need to go through, load each hotbar, and then that enters it into memory. And then once it's in memory, it kind of stays there. There might be another way to do this in Minecraft. I'm not actually sure, but this was how I got it to work. And then if I run this, then it all plays mostly. There was like one that was missing at the beginning. So this is that animation. So all that I am doing is that I am, let's go down to the bottom first. This function just runs over and over again. And so this has a dataman, a scoreboard called dataman and called count. And each time the function is run, it adds 1 to that. And then it schedules this function to run again. And then once it gets through everything, it resets the score just to reset it so I can run again. So all it does is that I have 170 commands. It says like, hey, if the scoreboard matches 1, then data merge this map to this other map ID. And so it just goes through and it just changes that map out 170 times. And that is the animation. Pretty simple. I didn't know if this was possible. Initially, I wanted to try to do it in my hand so that it was going to be playing while I was holding. But whenever you change maps, even with a command, it plays this animation. And literally, as I'm recording this, in the latest snapshot, there is a function that you can change that animation speed. And so now what I could have done is I could have actually been holding like a screen, basically like a little tablet that was playing the animation. So you could do it that way now. But when I made it, this was the only way that I could figure out actually how to make that work. Okay, to start off in this world, this is just a regular map. And when I'm using these note blocks, which I have a tutorial just for how I do this, but it's basically the same thing that I showed earlier. It's detecting that I've tuned it, it's running a function, and then that function checks to see what note this is tuned to, and then it runs certain functions on it. So it's kind of like a looping thing. But there is a whole video just dedicated like to that. But what I'm doing here is, let me turn on hitboxes. So this is a regular map, but underneath here, I've loaded in a custom model. Let me sneak in here, which is this one here. And so when I hit this, it teleports up through the map. And this started out as a model of this, like one-to-one blocks. And this is why I'm doing this in specifically 1.21.1, because I think it's the last version that Axiom has this feature. So I don't upgrade this version of Axiom because in here there is a save clipboard to JSON model, which is the file type that Minecraft uses for all of its models. So if you're ever doing any resource packs or changing things, it's using JSON models. And this just happens to be a very large one. So I made a copy of the mountain and placed it over there. And then I removed I removed all the grass, and then I changed a lot of the blocks to more simple looking textures. So it kind of still has like this, doesn't look like a one-to-one like scale thing or one-to-one like resolution thing. It looks a little bit low res. And this world doesn't have any caves or anything. This is the same map that I use for the ore videos. So that's why there's no caves or anything down here. But basically I made this model to scale over there, and then I exported it to as a model. And then with a resource pack, you can assign custom models. And then this is basically, I think this is either a piece of flint or a piece of stone that I'm using a custom like texture on, basically. And then I just stepped through that. So I removed all the trees, re-exported another model, and then another model. And so these are all just models that I'm swapping in with a data merge command. And then this is a flat piece of black concrete. And then while it's expanded, I also changed the model to now have a model that has like the line on it, which this is the final version, or one over here and one over here. So then this is looping through and just changing out that model. You can't see like that it, there is no time that the model isn't there, so it looks seamless. And then I just teleport it back down. And then while everything was up there, I swapped this map out for one of these maps, for this map, which is actually that flat one up there. So it doesn't have any of the texture on it like this one. This is just a flat map that has like the topo lines on it that I made. Oh, and I should say that this trick with Axiom and exporting JSON models from blocks, this works in future versions of Minecraft, but this feature was removed from Axiom. So if I need to do something in a newer version of Minecraft, I can go to 1.21.1, make my model, and then export it, and then like update it and use it in newer versions. And newer versions of Minecraft has they've changed like how you actually implement these custom models like 3 times. So it all depends on the version. So I'm not going to go into it, but there are. If somebody has a specific question about that, ask and I'll probably answer it. Okay, next. This one I am cheating with. This one is actually, again, a custom model because there is not this smooth of gradient in the maps. And so I just did this in Photoshop and then made a flat model that it's a one-dimensional model in Photoshop, and then made a custom model in Blockbench, and then it's there. Likewise with this is actually exported images out of QGIS, like I was showing in the video, and then this is just a block display entity. I was going to try to do like a simulated sun, but I'm not actually sure how I would have done that with like an effective like glow around it. So I'd like, well, a lantern is, conveys that. And then I do these block animations. People ask a lot of like, how I do some of these animations, this is all done in an Excel file, which I have a whole nother video dedicated just to this stuff as well. But generally, it's also with a scoreboard that's running, and I have it timed based on like a distance from a certain location. So either like it's a plane or a specific spot or something like that. So this one was done from like this plane here, and then I'm going to replace it with air going back down and then refilling out this this platform and everything. And then this rotates around to the other side. And then this is just swapping out to another map. Again, you can hear the map noise there. And then same thing with this. I am basically just making this in the game and then moving it one frame forward, like manually. And then I'm actually doing this with Axiom also. So how I get the data out of the game is there is save selection to CSV, a comma separated value, which you can put into Excel, and I use that. And so I'm basically just doing frame by frame animation here. And then each time I'm replacing what's not air with air, and then you know, setting the actual block there for each frame is what I'm like doing. So same thing with this, and back down, and then it rotates. If you want to see a very good example of this, go check out my Why Care About Geology video. That was all done with set block, almost the entire video. And the effects are pretty cool, I think. Okay, and then we'll go over to the map. When the map is done with the exact same thing, I use that map site again, and then this is done with a timing and a scoreboard thing. Looks really good. I am enjoying Silksong now. I am in Act 2 now, finally. Sorry. Then the next, doing the ramp, it's actually just a function. I did one that was only halfway, so you could kind of see the difference. So it just stops halfway across the scoreboard. And then the rest of the way. I didn't actually look into how the map actually updates either. It doesn't do like the whole thing all at once. I really don't know what the like order of operations is for that. Really, this is why this video exists. When I was first looking into maps, just like out of curiosity for my own like use, I became really frustrated with the maps, the map item format page, which has this spectrum palette. It's not even a spectrum because like there is no order to it. It's just done by like numerical index number. It just bothered me because like I couldn't figure out like what colors were missing and what colors, like if I was trying to go from like this blue that's above my head, like over to another color, like it's very chaotic and there was nothing else there. So this just made me think about like, what does this look like in a color space so I can kind of, you know, wrap my brain around it. But basically the whole episode was just a big excuse for me to figure this out and fix the wiki. But all right, so these are all text entities, even the color here. So with Axiom, you can turn on and get properties here. And so this is literally just the number 7. Can you just say hi? Whatever. So that's all these are. And what is loaded here is this shade stretched up very tall, but then the other 3 shades are also loaded in just at like 0 height. So let me turn off the box because it gets chaotic. So when I hit this, it's stretching this one up, but then also stretching these, and it's also translating them. So there's a difference between translation and scale and all that. My animation video also goes into that. The other tutorial that's on the video. I wonder if I have a playlist of tutorials. If there isn't, I'll make one, and then it'll be linked in the description. But so that's all that I'm doing. I'm just affecting translation, scale, and setting the time, like all that's going to happen. Then the same thing with the fourth one. They all get like stretched and everything. And then same thing with positioning. It's just reorganizing like their actual like location. There was like some Z fighting gear that I didn't bother to deal with, but if you wanted to, you could like offset their distance this way by like 0.0001, 2, 3, whatever, like very small amounts that you really wouldn't be perceivable, but it would get overcome that like Z fighting, and that wouldn't happen. But yeah, anyway, so just text entities. And then again, just more block animation, set block animation. And what does this look like? Oh wait, that one's locked. That's the old one. Do I have a current one? Yes, because I reassigned candle. Yes, I reassigned the candle to white in that one. All right, I still have the mod active. All right, and then again, just more like set block stuff. Same thing. The only thing that is different here is when I go to the color, it's doing the set block, but I basically had all of these as, again, a CSV in Excel. And for the first color, I calculated the distance from this corner to the first thing, and then that was that timing. Like say it was tick 15, and then the next color I just did that distance plus 5, and so that would be 20. And so it basically set that block, and then 5 ticks later it would set a different block there. And then I did that for every single one of these, and they're all just in the same file. And so that's why it's like cycles like through those colors. Yeah, then I changed the white. And the effect that's not in here is the redstone. I had a couple comments of like redstone jump scare, because I think I fly down here, right? And then I look at them, and then I turn around. Or is it the next one? Is it? I forgot what the next. I might have to go back to it. No, this is the flowers. So anyway, with the redstone, I actually had a moment where I was stopped, and so then I just opened my screen, and I got my exact XYZ and my look direction, and I took a screenshot of that, and then I set all my blocks up, and then I teleported to the exact same location and look direction, and then I could just turn again. And in editing, that was an editing magic. In editing, it appeared like there wasn't anything there; they just like showed up. But that's how that thing was done. All right, and then I think. Okay, green. Yeah, then we talked about green. So yeah, more set block, and then everything just disappears. And then the rest of it takes place in the color world. I guess we'll start off talking about my wand here. This is basically just the stand-in for a note block. So it's my PowerPoint clicker. It's summoned with this command right here. So it is a torch with... I gave it the enchantment override, and I gave it a custom name and a custom. Oh, sorry. My name. Yeah, I have all the letters. These are all the colors for the custom name. So it's going to be quite long. And then the custom data first function, and then it's consumable. The to remove the animation. It doesn't have any particles, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, what that does is it allows me to basically trigger an achievement, because I have a custom achievement that triggers when somebody uses this item. And that achievement runs a function, and that function resets the achievement, and it runs a bunch of things. And so then I can just click it again, and I get that achievement, and it runs that function, and it resets the function, or resets the achievement, and etc. Just in a big loop. It's the same way you do with interaction entities and other things. But so anyway, when I right click on it, it loads in a bunch of text displays, and my frames drop to nothing. So they are loaded in but invisible, size 0. And so when I make them large, there we go. Then we have all of the RGB gamut. So these are all text entities that are billboarded to look at me. And I actually just copied the old function I had from the uniform color video, also linked in the description probably. Very cool video if you haven't seen that. Lots of this stuff. This was when I first started kind of going a little bit overboard, going into like display stuff. But next click just shrinks them back to 0. Next one deletes them and loads in all of these blocks as display entities. So these are all just display entities. None of them are real blocks. That way you can actually have them like overlapping and everything. And then the same thing for the colors. These are text entities, Unicode circle text entities. And the lines are all stretched cubes. So this is I think this is lime concrete that I have stretched and just done math. So I have a Python script that I use that generates this. So I can feed the Python script a start point and an end point, and it generates a function that summons the display entity and then another summon that does like the animation. And so when I click it, then it actually like extends like outwards. And I can actually, I think I have a couple of versions of it. I change it like every time I use it. I just tweak it for my needs. But I have one that like changes the speed based on the distance. So if you want it to like extend out and reach the destination all at the same time, or spread out like at the same speed and get to destinations at different times, there's different things that do that. But this is one of my favorite things to use because, man, drawing lines in a 3D program, amazing. So that's what's going on here. And then I just get rid of them, and then I keep them all loaded, but I have them, I mostly run all this stuff through tags. And so I've tagged all of those with their own individual like color code. And so that way I can click and just run, hey, just extend the green, and it just runs all the green like out. But so that's like all that's really happening with all of this stuff. It's just lines running back and forth. This one is a small loop where I know how long the lines are going to be. So at the end of one line, it loads the text entity, or it makes text. Yeah, I don't think I animate this. It just loads it, and then it runs the next function to run the line, loads that one, and then we have one more, gets to the end, loads that, and then the next function just retracts all of those and gets rid of those. You can still see them here until I get rid of them. So there's one of the display entity lines. They have 0 thickness, but and then I think the next click gets rid of them, yeah. And just does the next animation. There's nothing really special about any of the rest of the stuff. Nothing new here. And I think that's it. I think the next one gets rid of it. Yeah. So anyway, hope that was informative or something. Like I said, like these things change also a lot. Like the tutorials that I'm probably linking, the text tutorial, they change syntax. And so some of that stuff isn't, like the concepts are all there, but like you might need to change how the brackets work or something. The block animation tutorial, that mostly is correct. I still use that file sometimes. It depends on what I'm doing now. Sometimes I have like some Python that basically does the same thing, and there's tons of different things. I end up probably redoing a lot of my own work because I forget how I'm horrible at commenting things in my code, and so I can't figure out like why I did a thing, and then it's easier for me to just rewrite something because like the use case is like specific. Lots of people ask me if I make tools, and oftentimes it's a lot of effort to make the tool because like I just need it to do something specific, and like the next video I might not use it for like, you know, a long time, and then I forget how to use it or forget how I made it or something. But anyway, there are some tools that I have which are linked in those tutorials and everything. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that little look into things, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.